Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Reset, Restarting Education with Technology Showcase, a session of the Philippine Startup Week 2020. This program is organized by the Miriam College Technology Business Incubator. The pandemic revealed education as a very vulnerable sector during a crisis. Educational institutions faced a deadline to restart classes in time for the pre COVID schedule. But rather than restart, educational technology must reset to the demands of distance learning in the country, led by several edtech startup founders in the country. Both public and private education institutions needed to adapt quickly to the new normal in delivering quality education and addressing the needs of both the teachers and students in continuing teaching and learning. In the coming years, online distance learning will be growing and will become a new model of delivering quality education from K to 12 to graduate programs. Thus, EdTech startups will be the partners of educational institutions in delivering online distance learning, making the school operations more efficient and effective, providing quality education and competent students. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge our event partners: CIA Bootleg Manila, Startup Village, St. Louis University Congress Technology Business Incubator, University of the Cordilleras Innovation and Nurturing Space, or USHANS. And of course, to the organizers of the Philippine Startup Week 2020, DOST, DTI, DICT, and Cubo. For the for the first For the first part of our discussion today, we will be talking about the edtech landscape in the Philippines and the global trends in edtech. Last year, MCTBI commissioned a research to evaluate the edtech market landscape in the country. In this research, global and local trends were studied to see how they impact and will impact the edtech industry as it moves forward. To provide us with the details of this study, please welcome Sir Justin C. Sir Justin is a PhD candidate at La Trobe University, Bendigo. He finished his master's degree in sociology at Ateneo de Manila University. He is also the head of Inciting Sociology at CIA Bootleg Manila. We are happy to have with us Sir Justin of CIA Bootleg Manila. Good morning, Sir Justin. You may now share your screen.
Hi everyone, my name is Justin C. I am one of the researchers for CIA Bootleg Manila, and I'm here to talk about the EdTech revolution and give you early examples and emerging international trends in EdTech. So my presentation today will be divided into three parts. First, I will talk about the basics of EdTech. Second, I will talk about early examples of EdTech. And finally, provide you with the current technologies that underpin the EdTech revolution. This is a research project, and so my methodology is the following. I utilize secondary data. I did content analysis. The data were obtained from the following sources: journal articles, textbooks, reports, websites, and blogs. And following content analysis, different patterns and themes were drawn from these sources. So let's go straight into it. First part, the basics of EdTech. What is EdTech? So EdTech, or education technology, is any ICT application that aims to improve education. Governments, schools, and families value technology as a central part of the education process. In fact, it is estimated to be a $130 billion industry by 2025. And so the evolution of EdTech has a rich history dating back from when the World Wide Web, or the internet, was formally launched in 1991. As you can see, over time, 1993, the development of search engines. 1995 was actually the first year that the LMS, or the Learning Management System, has been developed, which is called WebCT at that time, but now it's known as Blackboard. 1998, Wiki pages were created in 1999 when Google was formally launched. MIT announced its open courseware, marking the initiation of the open education resources movement in 2001. Blogs were started in 2003. YouTube and videos in 2005. Social media started in 2009. 2011, personal learning environments. 2012 was the start of the massive open online courses, or MOOC. Open textbooks in 2013, learning analytics in 2014, digital badges in 2015, and blockchain in 2017. Now, what are these different edtech tools and technologies? You'll learn more about them as I go through this talk. So, in EdTech, there are 5 different components, 5 different ways that EdTech enriches a student's learning. These are new curricula, scaffolds and tools, feedback, reflection and revision, connecting classrooms to communities, and teacher learning. So, to give you more details on that, the first one is bringing exciting curricula based on real-world problems. Second is to provide scaffolding to the students. Third, opportunities for feedback and reflection. Fourth is to build that connection between the local and the global. And fifth is to improve the opportunity for the learning of teachers. I will go through each of them in this talk today. First, new curricula. This is all about bringing real-world problems into the classroom, wherein students will find their own problems. And examples of this include problems such as video-based and computer simulations. So an early example of this is in 1992. Stanford University started this COVIS project called Collaborative Visualization, wherein students had this access to real-world problems that are solved by scientists. So as early as 1992, they had this desktop video teleconferencing, they have this software environment for real-time collaboration, access to the internet, and all of these tools. Apart from Stanford University, in 1995, GLOBE, or Global Learning and Observations to Benefit the Environment in Colorado, has gathered together different students from over 2,000 schools from 34 countries so that they can collect data about their environment. So it brings together the scientists, educators, and students to solve real-world problems. So that's the first part. Second part is scaffolding and tools. EdTech can be used as a scaffold so that the students can solve problems on their own, and it enables students to solve complex and advanced problems. Examples of tools include calculators, spreadsheets, graphing programs, and function probes. An early example would be computer-based visualization in the 1990s, wherein students in a physics lab can use computer probes to do real-time graphing of acceleration, light, and sound. Another early example is from the University of Hawaii. They developed the Belvedere inquiry diagram in 1995, which uses these graphics with boxes to represent the different types of relationships among different ideas. And the cool thing about this is that it already has an online advisor that gives hints to the students. The third component of EdTech is to give feedback, reflection, and revision to the students. So it makes it easy for teachers to give feedback to the students. And research shows that frequent and better feedback can boost student performance. An early example of this is from the University of Washington in 1994. They developed this program called Diagnoser, which assesses as any of students' preconceptions about physical formulas. So they help students reinterpret their preconceived notions using a physicist perspective. So it's real-time feedback. Another example is from the University of Massachusetts in 1996, the program called ClassTalk, which uses student input devices such as palm computers so that the teacher can present questions for the students to work on. And the teacher is able to collect data on who gets the right answers and who didn't get the correct answers so that he or she can give the right feedback. Another example is the Sherlock project from the University of Pittsburgh in 1996, which is dedicated to Air Force technicians, helping them troubleshoot electronics problem. So they also have an online coach, and it has already been deployed at several US Air Force bases. The fourth aspect of EdTech is connecting classrooms to students. So EdTech helps make that connection between the students in school and out of school activities. It brings the students and teachers in contact with a broader community. And with the community, I'm talking about universities, businesses, industries, and so forth. So research shows that when you connect classrooms to the community, what happens is the students are able to learn more when they interact. And these are called network-based communities. So examples of this connecting classrooms to community is from the Vanderbilt School in 1987. They call it the transparent school, wherein the school utilizes phones and answering machines to help the parents understand the daily assignments of their students. So the parents can call in and get informed about what their children are doing in school. Another early example of connecting classrooms to community is the American Schools Directory, or ASD, that was developed in 1996. It is an internet page for all of the 106,000 public and private K-12 students in the US, and it helps link the parents with their schools and their children's activities in school. Finally, the fifth way that EdTech enriches learning is through teacher learning. Technology gives teachers the license to experiment and play around. It enables them to model the learning process for their students so that they're also able to learn from this process itself. One good example in 1997 is TapIn, or the Teacher Professional Development Institute. It reminds you of early version of Zoom. It has this live and asynchronous communication. Teachers can log in, discuss, hold workshops. They even have these public rooms, very similar to the breakout rooms now, where they can engage in conversations with one another. 1997 also, from Indiana University and the North Central Regional Education Laboratory, they developed this multimedia video database wherein different video clips of teachers teaching, with their different classroom management strategies are featured and are shared with one another. So these are the different early examples of EdTech. But what are the technologies that made this possible, especially nowadays? First is artificial intelligence, or AI. It refers to this capacity for deductive thought using the logic of computers. And AI is used in education in the following: customization of learning processes, evaluating performance, and even grading. The global market for AI will reach $3.68 billion by 2023. A good example of the application of AI is GradeScope from UC Berkeley. This is a program that allows artificial intelligence to automatically grade a student's handwritten work, so it saves a lot of time. Another example of the use of AI is Squirrel AI Learning in China, which provides personalized tutoring for students after school. So courses in Chinese, math, English, physics, and chemistry are taught. Second, augmented reality or virtual reality, which introduces different virtual elements and situations to a student experience. For example, also VR in California designs this virtual training system to teach surgical skills. And so it provides its very realistic simulations of surgical procedures. Visible Body in Boston, Massachusetts allows the students to use a camera to view a real-world environment with digital information placed in that environment. Third tool is Internet of Things, or IoT. It refers to the connection of different devices to the internet, and so it provides better connections and more collaboration. An example of this is Magicard company in the UK. They have these smart cards which enable schools to monitor student attendance, provide access to medical services, and allow the user to pay for goods in the cafeteria. University of New South Wales in Australia also uses IoT to optimize their energy consumption, to collect real-time data on lighting, heating, and cooling. Another tool is blockchain, which refers to these ledgers that are immutable and stores information. Because they're immutable, they cannot be tampered with. So they are used for intellectual property and academic records. An example of which is Sony and Fujitsu using blockchain to verify the authenticity of Japanese language qualification of students. Singapore government also uses blockchain to digitize graduation certificates. Learning analytics and machine learning is also another tool that is used to capture learning behaviors. Purdue University uses Signals, which is basically a feedback tool so that the teachers will know which of their students are most at risk so that they can help them immediately. Learning analytics in London is also the same thing. It allows teachers to deliver questions right to the students and see their answers in real time so that they can give feedback automatically. Sixth tool is mobile devices. They are now everywhere, the use of mobile phones. And one good example of this is Photomath in Croatia, wherein you can use your mobile phone to instantaneously solve a math problem just by taking a photo of it. Powerful stuff. 7. Wearable technology, the use of gadgets such as watches, bracelets, and glasses. An example of which is Nimi wristbands in Toronto, Canada, which can be used as an authentication of a user because it is based on unique heart beating. So students won't be able to substitute for other students when writing the exam. Another tool is cloud computing, the use of the cloud to store and to collaborate with one another. An example of this is ClassFlow in Seattle, which helps teacher creates these lessons and send them, display them, and hand them out to the students in real time. Another tool is payment gateway, wherein the power of technology is used to ensure quick and seamless cash flow. An example of which is in Australia, Quicker by MasterCard, which facilitates various school-related payments made by parents for their children's expenses in school. So it can be accessed anytime. Finally, another tool that is gaining popularity is digital whiteboards. It has these functions such as writing, drawing, and annotating, which can be used for easy collaboration with one another. So an example is in San Francisco, Drop for School, which allows basically teachers to reach the students wherever they are, and the students can add voice, recording, photos, drawings, and text to their assignment. It makes their curriculum more engaging. So in conclusion, you can see that initially we see that there are 5 different ways that technology helps learning, but nowadays, thanks to these 10 different technologies, EdTech is so diverse. EdTech has changed over time, and you can see now there are 10 different ways, or probably more, that EdTech is helping learning. And you see these different colors over here. These are the different companies that are engaged in developing and implementing education technology. It's such a huge market now, and it's so diverse. Technology, EdTech, is changing the face of education all over the world. The question is, are we ready for EdTech? Is the Philippines ready for EdTech? We better be, because all around us, all over the world, it's inevitable. EdTech is happening. We need to take advantage of it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for that wonderful presentation, Sir Justin. We learned a lot from you today. We will now proceed with our panel discussion to be moderated by Dr. Gail Reyes Galang. She is a peace educator who earned her PhD in Child and Family Studies at Miriam College, where she currently chairs the Family Studies program. She also teaches as an associate professor at the Department of Psychology in the same institution. Not only that, she is also a startup founder. She is currently enrolled at MCTBI's The Nursery Incubation Program. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Gala.
Thank you, Roy. I am more than happy to moderate the panel discussion today. Please allow me to present our esteemed panelists. Our first panelist founded Anino Games in 2001, the first game development studio in the Philippines. He is also the chairman of the board of CIIT Philippines, a digital arts and technology college he founded in 2008 in Quezon City, with a branch in Alabang. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Elson Niel de Bondon from EduSuite. Good day, Neil.
Hello. Do I say good
Hi.
morning? Good day to everyone.
Our second panelist is a half Filipino, half Italian investment banker at Citigroup and a private equity investor in the United Kingdom a few years back. He returned to the Philippines to set up his own business, LearnTalk, an online tutorial platform used by tutorial chains around the world to schedule lessons and deliver live online instruction via the virtual classroom. Please welcome Mr. Nicolo Lucchini from LearnTalk. Good day, Nicolo.
Hi, everyone. Thanks a lot for the introduction.
Our third panelist is the Vice President of the Business Solutions for Growth Markets of CNE Educational Solutions, one of the leading educational solutions providers in the Philippines for 26 years now. He has 22 years of experience and expertise in strategic and planning, in strategic partnerships, business planning and development, and sales in the latest and innovative educational technology solutions with strong execution in entrepreneurial environment in edtech, digital learning, learning and content management systems, STEAM education, robotics and design thinking process. Please welcome Mr. Jeric Gomez from CNE Publishing Incorporated. Greetings, Jeric.
Good morning, Dr. Gale. Thank you for that kind introduction. Thank you for having me here. It's my pleasure.
Okay. Completing our panel is the president and CEO of Felta Multimedia Incorporated, a 54-year-old company engaged in introducing innovative instructional materials and educational devices for school technology. She is a Go Negosyo Pioneer mentor since 2005 with an expertise on marketing. 2020-2022 President of Women Business Council Philippines, Women Biz PH, one of the 100 most influential Filipino women in the world, 2016, and awarded Asia CEO Most Innovative Company in 2017. And of course, she is a mother, a model entrepreneur, a mountain climber, and a master in multitasking. Please welcome Ms. Mylene Aviva of Felta. Good day, Mylene.
Hello, good day. Thank you, Dr. Gail. Hello, everyone. Nice to be here. Thank you and good day.
Well, it's nice to have everyone here. Thank you for being with us today as you all share your challenges and success in establishing your own businesses to where they are right now. So let's begin. So, first, can you describe briefly what your company offers and how it helps in shaping the education technology industry in the Philippines? So, maybe I would like to start with Neil.
Hi. So I'm not sure what briefly means, but I'll try to be as brief as possible. So EduSuite, the company that I'm a co-founder and a president of, we're a school management solution. So that means schools, both K-12 schools, colleges, universities, use our software to help run their school, whether it's for enrollment, for managing their finances, for managing their facilities, or if the guidance counselor wants to see you, they use their software to do so. A lot of schools today, they still use manual processes and spreadsheets and email to get in touch with their students. What makes our solution, I guess, unique compared to the other school management solutions out there is we use the power of machine thinking to help the school optimize their resources and help them plan for the following for the semesters that they have to come, like optimize the schedules of the teachers and the students and advise them what to take. So that way, especially during this time in the pandemic where a lot of students have dropped out, it optimizes the way that they're still able to catch up to their classmates. And for the irregular students, the system will advise them what subjects they should take so they can graduate at the sooner possible time.
Thank you, Neil, for that. And how about Nicolo? Can you please describe briefly your company?
Sure, happy to. So LearnTalk is a software platform that helps tutorial centers operate online. And as you know, right, because of COVID, pretty much every tutorial center on planet Earth now has to operate online. So we find ourselves in a good place right now. So the platform provides a virtual classroom, booking system, payment system, student-teacher management functions, notifications, and reviews, and a whole host of other like marketing and CRM functions as well. So really, that's what we do. We have clients both here in the Philippines and abroad. I guess what makes us unique is we initially started as an online tutorial center ourselves. And after 3 years, we decided actually we're just going to license our software to other schools and help other schools provide online tuition. So yeah, we have some insights that I think a lot of people didn't have who were just building software.
Okay, thank you, Nicola, for that. Jarek? Jarek is from CNE Publishing. Hi, Jarek.
Hi, Dr. Gail, once again. CNE Publishing started in 1993. We started by distributing textbooks in the medical allied health profession. And in 2003, we started to expand further by offering our basic education resources. That's for the textbooks and the library. And then in 2007, we decided to expand again by offering the first ever online library resources, offering the databases, ebooks, journals. Back then, it was totally new in the industry. And I would say that over the past 27 years, what made us become relevant and adaptive is because we always take a look at what's new in the market, what are the things that we can offer in the education. As we all know, many things are happening around, evolving technologies, changing learning environment, the landscape, and the bold ideas coming from the technologies, educators, and students themselves. So right now, the past 27 years, we have a wide educational technology solutions that we're offering to the market. We have the digital resources from K to 12, higher education. We have the learning management system, content management system. We have the video conferencing platform, online library resources, and with the advent of IR 4.0, the fourth industrial revolution, and STEAM education, we have expanded our offerings as well to robotics, AI-based maker spaces, fabrication laboratories, and so on and so forth. So CNE, it has always been essential to us that we provide educational technology resources and solutions that foster skills and competencies to learners and educators that need to become relevant and competitive in this day and age, especially things that would foster critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and entrepreneurial spirit. That's who we are, CNE.
Okay, thank you very much, Jarek. And now let's hear from Mylene. What are the programs that is offered by Felta?
Right. Well, just a brief history of what FELTA is. Well, FELTA stands for First in Educational Learning Trends Always. We are a company, 54-year-old company, as you have mentioned, and we are actually an offshoot of Aviva Publishing, an 84-year-old company, started pre-war in 1936. So pretty much I'm what you call a child of owner or an ama in Tagalog, anak ng may-ari. And we are really proud that to have introduced the first audiovisual systems in the Philippines. We started with the full-color textbooks in the 1960s, and then we ventured into full-color slides and then full-color transparencies, full-color overhead transparencies, the ones that are used in the churches before, right? And then we manufactured science equipment and then ventured into Lego education robotics some 21 years ago. So we're the pioneer and leader in robotics, and then as well as virtual robotics right now. And then we're also into makerspace and artificial intelligence, and also into IoT, Internet of Things, as well as 3D simulation. And also we are the Microsoft Global Trading Partner. So we do have a lot of digital products in the pipeline. We pivoted right away once the COVID pandemic has hit the country. And we're proud to say that we have been able to help schools, help teachers actually in providing free remote learning sessions and webinars. In fact, we do still conduct weekly webinars for educators for free and for parents. So this is our advocacy. We continue to be the pioneer and leader in instructional materials in the Philippines. A school technology, by the way, used to be instructional materials.
Okay, thank you very much, Mylene. Let's talk about your early beginnings. So, your early years. So, what was the level of acceptance of Filipinos with EdTech products and services? Can you describe to us the perceptions of the Filipinos as regards to EdTech? Maybe we can start with Nicola this time.
Sure. Yeah, happy to. Um, so, well, we're really focused on foreign markets. So I'm just going to put that out there. We initially started as an online English tutorial platform. So the market in the Philippines was pretty limited because most people, I guess, with the ability to pay, already spoke quite good English. And then in terms of tutorial centers, there are not a lot of big, strong chains here. There are a handful, and we're actually we work with MSA, Enduran, and hopefully some others, including Ahead. But abroad, there's some very large tutorial chains, specifically for languages, which we work with, and so that's really more of our market. And I think the reason why is that even if you look in Southeast Asia, the hunger for for after school education is just much lower here than, say, in Vietnam or in even Indonesia, Singapore, and Hong Kong. And so, there's just a smaller market for people like us who are enabling tutorial centers in the Philippines. I think that has an effect also on people's perceptions of edtech. We haven't seen a lot of very big edtech companies yet come out of the Philippines, and hopefully that will change in the near future. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, thank you, Nicola. How about Jeric?
Yeah,
What was the perception of Filipinos as regards to edtech? Did it change at all?
yeah. I think based on experience, I think it's more on the real and concrete barriers to adopt and embrace edtech that make Filipinos express their unpleasant perception to edtech. I remember in 2005, the first time that I was sent by the company to, go around the US and the Europe just to check on what's happening in the education sector. It's also the same year when we started to expand our offerings in the educational technology solutions. Just a matter of 1 year, in the light of the emerging new market for online library resources, back then everything about electronic resources is really new. We saw the opportunity to expand there, and that gave birth to another company that we established in 2006. That was CE Logic. CE Logic went on to become the pioneer in the distribution of online library resources and systems in the country. But it took us, to be honest, 2 years before it could take off. In fact, internally, there was a pressure whether it was a good decision for us to diversify in that note because nothing is happening around. And after 2 years, finally, first sales came in. But I think it's not much about resistance of academic institutions to embrace in transitioning the acquisition of digital products for libraries, but more on the readiness to embrace change and infrastructure readiness. From experience, I can describe the situation as a wait and see attitude for many good and valid reasons, especially on account of available resources, mindset, and readiness. Again, back then, in 2006, just a year before the birth of the revolutionary iPhone that paved the way to the era of touchscreens, the high resistance to change when we were introducing digital resources and systems to libraries really is inevitable. Again, questions we encounter: why will we buy digital resources when students still prefer reading printed books in their physical nature instead of reading through their tablets and computers? We encounter questions like, will the subscription be good enough for us to utilize fully the resources? Uh, uh, can we still print even if we buy digital resources? Those kind of questions back then. And we're not ready because our ICT infrastructure isn't okay, internet connectivity is okay. So why do we need to invest on digital resources? So those were the challenges before, but 14 years after, we're proud to say that we're able to overcome those barriers, and now at least the CE Logic that we're able to put up is now the leading provider of educational resources for the library. I guess it was also the lack of clear scope or definition back then, and one of the most common barriers then was accelerating a change is the lack of common understanding of what the change actually is. Where do we go? What's the vision here? And so on and so forth. So I think the experiences that we encountered in 2006 is exactly the same as well in 2017 when we started to diversify, also offering our learning management system, our IoT, AI-based robotics, makerspace, and Fab Labs. They're the same thing. They're the same challenges that we encountered. It's more on the mindset, it's more on the readiness, and it's more on the infrastructure readiness as a whole.
Okay, thank you for that. How about Mylene? Well, yours is a longer one from Aviva to Felta. Maybe you can focus on Felta. How was the early beginnings of
Well,
Felta?
I have a story to tell. In the 80s, when I joined the family company about 1989, I would always have a screwdriver with me. and then bulbs, because I'd go around schools and changing bulbs of slide projectors and overhead projectors. So that's the scenario in the 80s. And it took us about, I would say, at least 6 to 7 years for teachers not to be afraid to switch on a simple slide projector and a simple overhead projector. And that's the journey that we had. And then we told them, why are you afraid? So I'll speak in Tagalog. Sabi nila, because baka pumutok yung bulb, babawas sa sweldo namin. So that was the kind of mentality we had in the 80s. And they didn't want to touch that. There was a white elephant. Sabi namin, you can use this for classroom instruction, and then why are you just putting it aside? Because as I said, they were so afraid that once the bulb, either burst or it gets broken, the equipment gets broken, then they have to pay for it. Then eventually what we conducted teacher training, technical, teaching them how to just, maintenance and troubleshooting. And then it really then built their confidence. So that was in the 80s. And then eventually in the 90s, then we introduced the Lego Education Robotics. From a mere 8 schools, we now have over 1,600 schools in the program all over the Philippines. And we actually train other countries to get into the program, to get into Lego Education Robotics, and now into virtual robotics. So that is the journey. And then we also have become a Intel Education OEM, which means we are a manufacturer for Intel Education for devices that are shockproof, water resistant, which comes with the LMS, the classroom management, and all the interactive equipment. And we do promote open source so that students can also be engaged and do not have to pay for licenses, which is cannot be afforded by the school. So eventually, this is our journey, and now we are into more on the digital products. So we have 3D simulation laboratories, we do have IoTs, we do have makerspace, and we're pretty much heavy on artificial intelligence now, which we will share later on for for all the edtech startups and the incubators that are going to be listening today. So with that, our journey is quite long, and I'd like to stop with that. We do have a lot of school technology in the future, in the pipeline.
Thank you, Mylene. That's just a very interesting story. Somehow I can't imagine you doing that.
I
Anyway,
did.
okay. Neil, how about for EduSuite? How was it in your early beginnings?
Well, EduSuite's not that old. I mean, we don't have a 30-year history. We started back in 2017. 2018 actually was when DOST decided to sponsor us, and that's when we formally incorporated the company. But my background is maybe similar to Nicola, where I used to manage a school. I co-founded a school more than a decade ago, and we were a technology school, so we were quite used to technologies. So we were an early adopter of cloud technologies, and I guess whenever we hire new people into the company or into the school, they're a little bit shocked or shell shocked with the amount of things that they need to learn in order to be able to teach our school, because our processes were a lot more modern than the other schools. And the reason I started EduSuite was because some of the school management systems that were available locally were not really I would say up to standard in modernizing education in the Philippines. So prior to starting a school, I also came from technology. I was in game development, so I'm pretty familiar with technology. So that's what spurred me to start a new company that will cater to other schools to help them modernize their technologies. And I guess even as far back as maybe 2019, last year, there's a big gap between what schools say they want to do versus what they're ready to do, or what there's a gap between actions and words that they say that they want to modernize their systems versus what they're actually doing. Like maybe as far back as last year, people kept on saying, okay, we want to modernize our school management system, but it has to be on premise. If it's not on premise, it's going to be a deal breaker for us. The server needs to be here, because if it's in the cloud, it'll be hacked, etc., etc. And schools were afraid to trust these modern technologies that will actually help them. And when COVID happened, that's when they realized that my systems are on premise. How do I access it while I'm at home? I need to go to the school in order to encode my grades. So it sort of like changed the whole mindset of the education industry, that they really need to modernize their systems in order to do that. And when you talk about cloud, just as far back as last year, people would still not understand what cloud software means. A lot of them would be looking for, one software to run them all. The one ring that will run both enrollment, learning management, HR, payroll, accounting, all of those. Where that's not how cloud works. If you want to modernize your systems, you need to have specialized software for each of your school's functions, whether it's an LMS or something else to manage your facilities. And a lot of schools, when they try to automate their processes, they're still of the mindset that whatever I do, and you can even find that in teachers that are still teaching now. They're just translating what they do in the classroom to what they do, but now on video con, but they still use physical whiteboards and something. And a lot of schools still have that mindset that they just want to digitize whatever they used to do manually. Like, to give one example, one of the more unique requests that we got from a school, that if they want to cancel a student's payment, that the supervisor needs to come to the cashier's workstation and enter the supervisor's password, which is what happens when they're in the grocery, right? When you buy something, you ask someone to void your purchase. But that's not how that's not the best practice on how you should do things if you're talking about trying to modernize your systems. Really thinking of not just digitizing your processes, but optimizing your processes to make it more automated. So I guess we're getting there. COVID was, I would say, long-term blessing to edtech, that it opened up the minds of education, even though for a lot of companies, especially a lot of edtech companies, their short-term losses, because they had no customers for a couple of months while schools were on lockdown. So I see a bright road ahead.
Okay, thank you, Neil, for that. And you're all right. Maybe it's good that perceptions changed, but I'm sure you've encountered a lot of fear and resistance, especially from the administrators who are really digital migrants and they don't know what to do and how to troubleshoot. And I know they've been relying so much on you to do everything. And you did mention, all of you, the pandemic. So your services are good if it's face to face. But now, how are you able to service these schools or your other clients online? So specifically, in what ways does EdTech support teaching and learning, not only in face to face instruction, but also in distance learning? So maybe we can
All
start
right.
with Sherrick this
Sure.
time.
Thank you, Dr. Gia. Yeah, as we can see, edtech solutions are really becoming part of our everyday lives. There are learning solutions for literally everyone. Schools, businesses, parents, and individuals. Really, everyone wants to be part of the edtech evolution. In what way does edtech support teaching and learning? Quite a lot, I may say. Through edtech example, using a learning content management system, we have our Kite Academy solutions for the K to 12 and Eating Education LMS for the higher education. For most, the institution is able to reduce learning and development costs needed in the professional development of both teaching and non-teaching personnel. So trainings are now deployed or delivered online. As a teacher, if you're using LMS, you're able to organize e-learning contents in one working space or one location. Although also through LMS, there's no disruption in learning, as we call it. There's access anywhere and everywhere to education. So talking about accessibility and convenience, right at the confines of your homes. Through EdTech, a teacher easily can track. No, we've heard nowadays electronic assessments platforms. So teacher can easily track a learner's progress and performance because of real-time auto-generated assessments and reports, and through various data analytics. You can think of dati siguro as a teacher nasa middle of the SEM na when you found out that one student is lagging behind or is struggling in one subject. But now, because the results are real time, auto-generated, you can almost quickly adapt to the situation. So again, same is true with the student, But now through adaptive learning platforms where artificial intelligence is embedded and through certain data, students are helped right away, right? At where they should improve and where they should be given help. In the case of library system and solutions, for example, you're able to check in and check out materials in this day and age. So you don't have to go to the library physically. You can check in digitally your materials and so on and so forth. So I guess in the case of virtual robotics as well and STEAM education, you're able to do coding and build your own prototypes and creations and experiments now even virtually and remotely. So again, continuing with the trend of technology in education, and recently because of this pandemic, we're all likely to see a rise in the online education programs in the future. Before, it used to be only on the professional uh, level, but even now, because of the pandemic, we are seeing our K-12 students more and more engaged in the virtual landscape. I would say that our world will continue to evolve. Education landscape will continue to change, and technology will continue to impose its ways. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jarek. How about Mylene? How are you doing in this digital setup compared to the face-to-face
Well,
services that you've done?
yes, as I mentioned, that we are very fortunate that we had digital products, right? Be able to pivot right at the start of the COVID pandemic. And actually, just to give you an idea, the Philippine Robotics National Team made the first alcohol robot dispensers, which we distributed to the various hospitals for free, seminaries, and also public markets. And also made the first Lego education robot automated ventilator, which is still being used in the Bulacan General Hospital to date. So it's a first of its kind, and it's in an ambulance for emergency purposes. So these are the kind of real life impact that we have been able to do, specifically in the field of robotics, that we want our students to be a contributor, to a solution provider. That's the reason why robotics is really for critical thinkers. In addition, we have been since we are a Microsoft Global Training Partner, we have conducted, as I said, free tutorials for remote learning for teachers, educators, and even parents for the past few months. In fact, we have been training the first Microsoft and Apple collaboration was done by Felta, where we used the devices of Apple and using the Microsoft Office 365. So that's the first. In addition, since we're a Microsoft Global Training Partner, we are now using their platform for MS Teams, so for virtual classes, as well as their OneNote for the grading system, for the real-time grading of their students, as well as SharePoint for the content collaboration. And we believe that it's really very important for us to do this. And the good thing that Felt has been doing is to use Minecraft. So we have Neil as a game developer here, that we have been using Minecraft education as a means or a tool for us to engage students in gamified learning. So in fact, we just conducted the first Philippine National Minecraft competition, and we're now participating in the global build competition, the World Global Build competition, sending the Philippine team to these competitions. So what are they doing? They are now using gamified learning and using this Minecraft education for learning computer science, mathematics, language arts. And in fact, now we are teaching business. So we do have a full curriculum for each digital product that we have. Now, finally, we have just launched a few days ago a 3D laboratory, which means particular in physics. It's very difficult to teach physics even in person, physical, and also in virtual. So this physics laboratory, you don't need to buy any expensive laboratory equipment. So it has all your laboratory equipment, say for if you want to do sound experiments, if you want to do light, and even all the electrical experiments. So we're doing this. We're also offering this for engineering and soon to be for medical field. So these are the kinds of innovations that we have. And since our viewers are, I said, incubators and startups, we really need to collaborate together, because in the future, in the near future, in fact, we have artificial intelligence, which we need for agriculture, since we know, especially now that the weather is really very especially for the Philippines, we have a lot of typhoons. So we can now use AI to help us in what kind of crops we have to plant, and even in health. So it's very, very helpful. And even in tourism and hotel industry, that's what's really been heavily negatively impacted by the COVID situation. So with this, in essence, is that my message is to really be to be relevant, to your business should be relevant, and also to have an advocacy to help other people, especially our school systems, to recover from the COVID pandemic.
Yes, thank you, Mylene, for sharing your relevant innovations and your advocacies. Let's move to Neil. How was it for EduSuite?
Question is,
How are you?
how
Yeah,
are we becoming relevant to distance learning?
how are you supporting? Yes, the digital
Yeah.
learning platform
Well,
these days.
prior to the pandemic, enrolling students was always one of, I'm not sure how Miriam does it, but it's one of the most chaotic times for the school, where you have academics people advising students what subjects to take, and you have everyone helping out with the enrollment situation. And that's one of the problems that we've solved even prior to the pandemic, that for some of these schools wherein their enrollment season is the one where they had to put in a lot of work to make sure that everything goes right. We've transitioned some of these schools from that state into schools that take their school break or their holidays during the enrollment season, because they just leave it to the computer to figure stuff out for them. In fact, uh, like for some of these schools, what they did, like our pioneer clients, was that during the enrollment season, they're not allowed to go to the school at all, so everything has to be done online. So even for like parents who want to go to the school and knock on the door because they have a bag of money to pay for the tuition fee of their kids, we bring them to a computer laboratory and teach them, oh, this is how you pay online. Just click this button, then you go to a bank or go to 7-Eleven and pay your tuition fee there. So that sort of solution that we provided to these schools when the pandemic happened, it was very, very beneficial for these schools. That oh, good thing everything is online. None of their operations got disrupted. That while a lot of other schools are rushing to choose an LMS and buy a new LMS in time for their incoming school year, and they had to stop, and some schools even had to do some sort of mass promotion or whatever. Our clients, they didn't have an issue because they were technologically ready. So sure, there was some pause because of the uncertainty that's happening, but after a few weeks, they were the pioneer schools who started starting classes already. They didn't experience the delays that schools without systems were experiencing, because they had to reconfigure all their processes to work online. At the start, it was already online even before the pandemic. And I guess one of the things and one of the opportunities, maybe I'll talk about it more later, is that as entrepreneurs ourselves, I myself am an entrepreneur, and I'm sure a lot of the audience listening to this are, because it's a Philippine Startup Week. There's also a lot of opportunities that came up because of the pandemic. It's not just about pivoting your existing business to cater to the demands of the students. You'd have to think about the other opportunities that became present. So maybe I can talk about my other startups because I'm taking up too much time already. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Neil. How about for Nicola? For LearnTalk, has it always been in a digital platform, or did you have a face-to-face component prior to that? So, how is it right now that everything seems to be being delivered in through distance learning?
Yeah. Well, actually, we we used to be a little bit frustrated because, we couldn't understand why people would want to travel like an hour to have like a tutorial, and then travel an hour back, right? But people used to want to do that, surprisingly, even with. I mean, we had all the tools 4 or 5 years ago that we have now. I mean, we're an online first solution, um, and yeah, so we were kind of made for this. I mean, even our team is distributed. 3 years ago, we just decided to be distributed. None of the developers wanted to come in. They were, people were always late because of traffic, and so it just made much more sense just to do things online, especially for language tuition. But yeah, I guess, and also going to to the question about how is EdTech supporting teaching and learning, I think we're obviously very focused on live instruction, but there's a lot of I think the biggest EdTech out there is actually YouTube, and I know it's like not known as an EdTech, but I guess that's probably where nearly the most hours of tuition are being done are on YouTube, right? So there's a lot of asynchronous sort of edtech solutions like YouTube, etc., or Duolingo in the language space that have been around for a very, very long time. And I think they're just going to get better and better, especially with the implementation of adaptive learning in AI. So yeah, that's really where we are. Hopefully that answers the
Yeah.
question.
Oh, thank you very much, Nicola, and thank you, everyone. So, from my perception, it seems that all of you were like steps ahead in the journey. Like you were doing many things already prior to the pandemic, such that when the pandemic came, here you were to the rescue of everyone who was really so afraid. And all we need to do from the school setting is just really to get into the training, to get to know more of your services. And thanks to you, we're here now and we're back on track teaching everyone. So let's move on to people who may wish to venture into edtech, maybe startups or entrepreneurs who would want to do this for themselves. So, what areas in edtech do you see that we can look into that are feasible in creating startups? And what are the considerations that our startups and entrepreneurs, what must they consider if they so decide to venture into edtech? Because right now, I'm sure that as we experience this, we also see some little bits of gaps that we want to do something about, and they might want to do a startup on that. But what would be your advice for them? Maybe we can start with Mylene.
All right. Okay, well, as I mentioned, AI will really play a significant role in the next few years, actually, even now. And imagine it will have an impact on workforce for one. You have the chatbot, the chatbot, those are AI. So now it will be more common now in particularly in commercial, say, sites or commercial products because of no longer in person engagement. So I think AI would be I would say a gold mine for if you want to be ahead than anyone in the game is to venture into AI. Either, as I said, either for agriculture, for health, for education. In fact, you can estimate, like probably, as Neil has mentioned, even the enrollment. You can do some kind of AI calculations there or analytics. And for content, it's also important for you to have, if you are a software developer or a game developer, you can have some content. You can be a content provider for schools or even for service providers like us. So you can approach us. And actually, I like the business model of Nicolo, where we will be needing a lot of language proficiency. Once the borders start to open up, we're all going to be talking verbally. I mean, virtually, and having another language as another tool for you to have either a promotion or, in fact, get the career that you want is really something that is a valuable tool as well. So these are just ideas of mine that you can venture in, and probably also if you're into 3D technology, that would be a good business as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Mylene. How about for Neil? What would be your advice for our entrepreneurs and our
Well, if you're an
people who want to do a
entrepreneur,
startup?
the things you always need to look at would be opportunities, right? So here's the thing: a lot of schools are suffering. They're suffering because of the lockdowns. Maybe you won't feel it if you go to a school like the Ateneos and the LaSalles, where they still have the same number of students that are enrolling this year. But for a lot of schools with lower end tuitions, they'd experience something like something between maybe 25 to 50% drop rate in students. So either a lot of these students are going into homeschooling, or they stop because they can't afford it because the COVID really hit the economy pretty bad. Or maybe distance learning is not just for them, right? There are students who can learn in the classroom, but they can't learn at home. So in a lot of ways, how are we supporting these students that are no longer attending the schools? One thing is that schools are still approaching this problem the same way they've always approached this problem. Now they're just approaching it from a VidCon perspective, right? Instead of doing learning, they're doing VidCon. But in a way, as I mentioned a while ago, this will work temporarily in the meantime. It will work now, but the new normal is forcing people to open up their minds on how education is done. So I'm pretty sure that these are temporary solutions that schools are doing now, but there will be a paradigm shift again, and schools that can't adapt will probably close down. A lot of schools have already closed down, right? You hear about these branches of schools closing down 10 schools, etc. And these paradigm shift, it's an opportunity for a lot of entrepreneurs to address these students, address this new way of learning. To tell you my personal story, one of the initiatives I did during this COVID pandemic is I found another startup that we partnered with. So, instead of just mentoring this new startup, a pandemic-born startup, its name is Scarsbelt, that offers fully asynchronous learning to students at home. I'm also, quite pleasantly surprised with their story, because even during their first month of operation, even within 4 months, they've already have more than 10,000 students for a company so new, with millions of pesos in revenue a month in their first month of operation. So we partnered with them. We actually invested in their company, so that we can cater to all these students that are just staying at home. And you'd think that we can't offer another fully asynchronous learning because there's already Udemy, there's already Coursera. They can always take these courses, and we'd have to be competing with them. But some of these entrepreneurs proved these naysayers wrong. If you offer content that is really custom to our culture, custom to the Filipino way of mind, offer localized jokes or something, you'd be able to have a successful product. And it's not just something I'm talking about in the Philippines, but if you offer something regional as well, Indonesia's near, which is I think the number 4 market in education in the world as well. Now, it's a really big opportunity for local entrepreneurs to take advantage of this disruption that's happening. Yeah, that's it. I think you're.
Thank you very much. Yes, hi, thank you very much for that, Neil. How about for Nicolo?
Yeah,
Any
interesting.
advice? Yeah.
Interesting points, Neil and Mylene. Yeah, I think. Well, one kind of project I've had in the back of my mind is just to basically put the whole national curriculum in videos and master classes online or in a downloadable app. I'm kind of surprised that DepEd hasn't done this already, right? And just get like the country's best teachers and entertainers to just put the whole curriculum and teach it in once, and then for schools, who can't afford teachers, or for overcrowded schools, you'll get the best teacher. You can even get celebrities to be the teachers if you want. So someone's got to do it. Yeah, another thing is, and I think globally is there's an opportunity for like really high quality homeschool, like international style, IB style education, and to build like a global brand of international schools, and then things like sports or design and technology, where you actually have to be in person. You can do those on a local level, maybe once a month or something. So yeah, I think there's going to be someone's going to build like a premium brand of education, of global education or IB education for sure. Now, things to look out for. So there's a lot of things to look out for. I mean, we had a lot of struggles as starting a business. I think that one of the hardest things is customer acquisition. If you're in B2C, it's notoriously expensive unless you've got like a really viral product. If you're in B2B, you got to look out for the, it takes a long time, especially in education. If you're selling to old established schools, it can take sometimes years, even if they love your product, to convince all the levels of management to get buy-in. So, you know, so those things are worth thinking about. I think another thing, which Peter Thiel, the kind of famous entrepreneur, always bangs on about, is having your product or solution be 10 times better than the next, right? Otherwise, there's people will not feel the real need to buy it. So those are a couple of thoughts that I'd like to share. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Nicolo. And lastly, Jarek, what would be your advice to entrepreneurs and those who want to do startups in the line of edtech?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Gale. I think at the beginning I mentioned about two big words that had kept us going: relevancy and adaptability. And this, I would say, have propelled us the past 27 years. Just looking around, there are many edtech solutions right now that need a lot of improvement. And to be honest, just looking at every angle of academic institution, there are many areas of edtech that you really can cover. I'd like to share with you a research made by Market Brief, one of the leading research companies in the US that provide insights to educational solutions provider and educational leaders all over the world. And I was fortunate that I was able to attend one of their conferences back in January 2020, early this year, prior to the pandemic, during the British Educational Technology Trade Show in London. And according to their survey, uh, the study released, investors and academic institutions in the US, in terms of the top investment priorities right now, are in the areas of the following: professional development. Imagine coming up with an application, or probably a website that will help further or boost further the intellectual and every aspect of learning of our professionals, followed by classroom and instructional technology solutions, social emotional learning, which is the development of overall well-being, both the students and teachers, considered today actually to have a bigger role in the future, especially as what we've been hearing during the pandemic. Special education, of course. IT hardware and infrastructure will always be there. STEM materials, IoT, AI-based and robotics, blended and digital learning, project-based learning, math instructional materials, English language learner solution, formative assessments, adaptive learning systems, learning management systems, student information systems. I think this, particularly during this pandemic, what it has taught us in the education sector is the opportunity to teach back better and to improve better. It is bringing us to the moment to be more expansive about how we think about education, teaching, and learning. We know that we cannot also go back to our old ways of doing things, especially as we now live in the fourth industrial revolution. So it's really a wide space out there, and there's so much more to improve in the space of educational technology solution.
Okay, thank you very much, Jarek. And actually, we learned so much from you. And you're right. There's no turning back. We can't go back to where we used to be. So, and we picked up a lot of things. So it's not only in the education setting, but we can also think of how this could apply to the agricultural and health setting. So you just have to find ways also to support students who are not able to go to school, and really look into the resources. And you're right, there are teachers who are doing an excellent job, and they should be the ones teaching those who don't really have any access. So we must capitalize on them as well. And I think it all boils down to being relevant, being able to answer to the needs of the present. So that has been a very, very fruitful discussion. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much to our dear panelists. And now we have to end, and I would like to turn back the audience back to Roy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gale, and to our panelists. It's been very informative indeed. So we are now heading over to present the video presentation of our startups from MCTBI and our event partners, TBI's St. Louis University Congress Technology Business Incubator and University of the Cordilleras Innovation and Nurturing Space, or USHANS.
Welcome to the future of education. The global pandemic has affected educational systems worldwide, resulting to temporary closure of schools and the shift to non-face-to-face teaching strategies. We can help schools implement distance learning strategies. We develop interactive learning content supplemented by performance assessment tools. These contents can be deployed online or offline. We can help design, build, deploy, and maintain a learning management system or LMS for schools. Academy is supported by professionals from the Academe and by Ecom Corporation for its technology and content development initiatives. Since 2001, Ecom Corporation has worked with schools in developing interactive multimedia content for learning, training, and gaming.
Through Academy, education has been made easy.
Are you a teacher in search for more creative ideas in teaching your classes? Are you a student looking for research related to your own study? Do you need research mentors for your college thesis or subject area coaches for your elementary school kids? Or are you simply eager to share learning resources, research findings, and other educational ideas? Meet ELI, or the Electronic Library of Ideas. ELI is an educational and resource service accessible through the World Wide Web. This is a great help to students in remote areas since the educational videos mirror the curriculum of the Department of Education. Thus, K-12 students benefit from being taught by the best teachers in the Philippines. Come build our electronic library of ideas. For more information, email Team Eli through rrdeleon@mc.edu.ph. Join Eli for education beyond borders and research writing made easy.
Hi, I'm Paula.
And I'm Kathleen.
We are both founders of Polia from Baguio City, Philippines. Polia is an online freelancing platform. We train the indigenous youth on on-demand digital, soft, and technical skills through our mother tongue, and we provide employment opportunities upon completing the training, with partnering with local and foreign SME business owners as well as multinational companies.
We have been experiencing lack of access of the indigenous youth to a safe, sustainable, and professional growing career. This has been happening for so long that until now we experience missed job opportunities.
This is why we started Poldia. We offer an opportunity for safe, sustainable, and professional growing career through an education to employment model, training to job opportunities. We are here to address the social inclusion of the indigenous people in the Cordillera.
This is Rusty from Motion AR, an augmented reality-based motion graphing application for physics classes. As a physics teacher, I know that preparing a motion graph experiment can be tedious. You need to get the hardware, you boot up the software, and then check if they work together, and then also make sure that students know how to run the setup without the teacher's help. This doesn't work well because it is costly, it's also time-consuming to set up, and it requires high technical know-how. With Motion AR, you can set up a motion graph experiment in a snap. You simply attach the AR markers on an object, you point your device to the AR markers, then Motion AR will graph the object's movement for you. Motion AR has few hardware pieces for short setup time. It also automatically produces 3 motion graphs, and it's also easy to use. Just remember, attach, point, and shoot. In return, cost of ownership is reduced, setup time is reduced, and learning is increased. Once again, this is Motion AR, an AR-based motion graphing application for physics classes.
Most schools are now having a hard time during the global pandemic, not to mention that half the world have no access to better internet connection. Students and parents are not equipped with better tools in this situation, especially the cost on buying the premium to operate the classes are costly, and teachers still need to process the admission grading manually. Here in London, we use Zoom subscription, and it is still costly and it doesn't give the school all the things that they need. This is what makes me love Unifinity. They offer support to the different needs of the school, even if you're a small training centre, a coaching class, a small academy, a teacher to a full university. Unifinity offers a full education suite that matches your needs. So I highly recommend that you should give them a try. This is what you need. Start your virtual academy and I definitely recommend it.
The Automated Reconstruction Crime Scene Tool, or otherwise known as ARREST, is an educational tool used to recreate crime scenes for forensic science students to better visualize the scenes of the crime through a 3D environment. ARREST is one of the technologies developed under Crimintech Solutions to revolutionize the field of criminal justice.
And those are the startups from MCTBI and our TBI partners. Thank you so much. Thank you once again to our audience, speakers, panelists, startups, and event partners. Startup Village, CIA Bootleg Manila, St. Louis University Congress Technology Business Incubator, and University of the Cordilleras Innovation and Nurturing Space, or USHANS. We would also like to take this opportunity to invite you all to the open call for startups in the Miriam College Technology Business Incubator. We are currently looking for solutions related to education technology, food, and well being. Successful applicants will be enrolled in our very own the Nursery Incubation Program Cohort 2 on January 2021. The deadline of applications is on December 29, 2020. Let us know your big idea. You may call us at 028930 6272, locals 1265, 1266, 1267, and 1268. Or you may email us at mcbanyas@mc.edu.ph. This has been Reset, Restarting Education with Technology Showcase, a community event organized by the Miriam College Technology Business Incubator for the Philippine Startup Week 2020. This is Roy Ves Villadiego, the Communications Associate of Miriam College CBI. Once again, thank you and have a nice day.